Premiere Gal of the Month with Kate, take 3. Hello everybody, it's Premiere Gal here. Today I'm really pleased to welcome my friend and colleague, Kate Ferranto. She works with me in my day job at the State Department. Mm-hmm. She's a technical director for the Bureau of International Information Programs, where she helps run and do all the technical savvy stuff for a lot of the live programs that they put on for global audiences. So we don't work together directly, but we're both kind of like tech girls that hang out. And Kate actually has a really solid background in audio production because she went to school for it. I think some of you probably already know this, but if you're a beginner, it's always good to know like the foundation. So we're going to talk a little bit about formats here, and Kate's going to inform us, what is a .AIFF audio format? What's the difference between that and a .WAV, a WAV file, and then a .MP3?
So a .AIFF is a high-res audio file that was developed by Mac. And in conjunction with that, a WAV is a file that was developed by PC Microsoft.
And why did they come up with AIFF? It's like the hardest thing to say.
I have no...
I always mess it up.
I even forget what it stands for right now.
I'm not
Audio
sure. Well,
information file, something like that.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. But I'm like, let's just do it AIF. So random. But yeah, that makes sense if it's an abbreviation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So moving on into sample rates for recording, there's 44.1 kilohertz and there's 48 kilohertz, and those are usually the sample rates that we use for digital video, correct? Mm-hmm. Do you want to sort of explain the difference?
Sure. So you always got to remember what your deliverable is, because that's what's going to tell you what sample rate you want to use. So your sample rate, the difference between 44.1 and 48, is just how many samples it's taking per second. So at 44.1, it's taking 44,100 samples per second, and likewise at 48.
Got it.
And so when we're recording, we're taking a sound that is natural and analog, and we're digitizing it.
Yeah.
So when we do that, it's taking a sample of that sound. So the more samples you take, the more natural it sounds, like the original sound. But really, once you get past 40 or even 24, the human ear can't really tell the difference. It's just more for audio mixers to be able to go in there and play with the sound a little bit more.
Yeah. It's interesting, but yeah, that makes complete sense. We're trying to ultimately mimic reality, right? And make it appear natural.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And my next question is about microphones.
Sure.
What sort of microphones do you suggest, if you just want to name like 2 of them, like for different situations, like maybe for voiceover, or if you just want to do like interviews and maybe some recording of like instruments or something?
Sure. So a good one to have, the one that you should get right off the bat is SM58, because it can turn into SM57 as long as you take off the top. And SM57s are good for recording instruments, and it's a handheld mic. You can also use it in a live setting or something like that, and you can also use it as a boom if you want.
You can get like a mount or something like that.
It's just a very versatile microphone.
Cool.
And for voiceovers, I personally use a Rode NT1A. It's a condenser mic, and I love it. It's very smooth. I like the way that it sounds, but you just always have to keep in mind how your voice sounds and what dynamic range you need.
And that comes with the screen with it? You're talking about for the Rode?
The Rode comes with a shock mount and a pop filter.
The pop filter.
Yeah.
Screen. No, it's not a screen. Pop filter. Yeah. Okay, I got to remember that. And that helps block any of the
harsh sounds that we can make.
From, like what about like any of the clicks and
stuff like that? It just it dampens them. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. And now moving on to audio production tools that you use on a daily basis, and any recommendations you have.
So for, simple background music or something like that, or just a quick EQ, I'll just use Premiere for that. But if I want to do some noise reduction and some like remixing, if you will, I bring all that into Audition. They've got great filters on there.
And you can use them simultaneous. You can send to Audition that I've used a lot for
Yep.
noise reduction. And one question I had about that is, you mentioned you dropped the EQ. EQ's equalizer, right? So I'm still learning how to do that, and I'm sure you have some advice for it, but basically I wanted to remove a background noise, and it took out frequencies, so it didn't sound as real, as natural as the original sample rate that we recorded at. So how, could you explain what an EQ is and maybe a little bit how it works?
Sure. So EQ, obviously, equalizer. But what you're doing is you're enhancing the sound that's already there. So if I want, the human ear cannot hear below 80 or above 14, really. And so if you cut those sounds in your EQ, that should be fine. You shouldn't be able to hear any difference. But if you want to bring presence or boost like a vocal, you can attenuate those and make them a little higher so that they have more presence and you can hear them a little bit more clearly than the other frequencies. So if you do a noise reduction and it brings everything down, what you can do is you can go into your EQ and boost the levels that you want.
And so you're just sort of focusing on those particular frequencies and playing around with the knobs.
Exactly.
Well, you're going to have to show us how to do that, for an example. I'd love to learn more about it.
Of course.
So that's all the time we have with Kate. Thanks again for sharing your knowledge. Do you want to tell the audience how they can follow your work?
Sure. I'm at kateferranto.com, and you can put a link in if you want.
Yeah.
And that's where all my work is and how you can contact me, all that good stuff.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'll put all the links that Kate mentioned below. And if you guys have anybody else out there that you would recommend to be featured on Premier Gal of the Month, just let me know. And leave a comment below and be sure to subscribe to this channel. Thanks again. Bye.